Abortion is healthcare, or so we're told, except when they abort, quote unquote, the wrong baby, or when they accidentally kill the woman, or when they make a horrible mistake. I'm Joanna Howe, Professor of Law, former Rhodes Scholar, and I'm here to bring you the inside scoop on the abortion establishment and the deadly secrets that they won't tell you. And that's today on The Dr. Joe Show. They aborted the wrong baby, screamed the headline on the BBC last week. Let's take a look.
Families have told the BBC they were wrongly advised to have an abortion by Nottingham University Hospital's NHS Trust. Two of them said they terminated their pregnancies after being mistakenly told that their babies had genetic conditions. The third changed their minds and are now parents of a healthy boy. The Trust said its fetal care team always sought to provide compassionate and professional care. Our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan has this report.
It's the most impossible choice we've ever had to make. We just thought the best option was to end the pregnancy because the baby was just suffering.
Carly and Carl were expecting their first child in 2019 when a test indicated their baby might have Patau's syndrome, a rare life-limiting genetic disorder. A consultant outlined the consequences.
She said that our daughter, if she even made full term, she would just spend hours suffering and her life would be
just a
doctors,
state of palliative care.
Yeah.
Though it was a two-part test, the fetal care team at Nottingham City Hospital say the second part, the results of which would take a fortnight to come through, would only confirm the initial result.
We asked her, is there any point in waiting for that? Because will it change? Is there anything we can do? She said, no, it will only confirm that your baby's got Patau's.
The couple, who'd named their baby Ladybird, felt medics were guiding them to end the pregnancy.
It was shepherded towards that. I mean, there was no other options.
It's just an awful, impossible situation. Yeah.
Weeks after the abortion, they returned to hospital for what they thought was a routine follow-up meeting with a consultant.
The first thing she said was, I've got something to tell you, your results have changed. And I was like, you're going to tell me that my daughter was completely healthy.
An NHS investigation concluded the first test result had been a false positive, a well-recognised hazard of such tests. Although not absolutely certain, it seems highly probable that the pregnancy was, in fact, chromosomally normal. In other words, the baby was healthy.
I remember being really confused, like, is this normal that, they guide you to end pregnancies and then this happens? It was just, I couldn't work it out. It was that bad.
So a couple of things to pull out from that. Notice it's the fetal care team that is shepherding and advising this couple to pursue abortion, to pursue killing their child. This concurs with what we know from other studies. There was a study in Australia of parents who received the diagnosis that their children have Down syndrome. Over 50% said they were pressured to abort their child and to pursue termination by the medical profession. They were not given impartial advice. They shouldn't be called the fetal care team. They should be called the fetal death team because that's what they're pursuing. This couple says later in the story they didn't feel like they were given another option. There is always another option. It is very important that we ensure that we're not excusing the couple here. They knowingly chose to kill their child. They were given the wrong advice, but they did knowingly choose to kill their child. And the other thing to pull out here is that this couple was given the wrong diagnosis. Their baby was, in fact, healthy, and the BBC reporter suggests that this actually happens all the time. The prenatal diagnosis can be wrong. It's really interesting to see how the media is reporting this, that they aborted the wrong baby. I think Drexel Gregory says it well on socials when he says, that headline needs a correction. All families who are advised to abort were wrongly advised. And that's the point here, isn't it? Every abortion kills the wrong child because is there a right child to kill? I mean, what do they look like? Are they a child that's too tall or too short? Or maybe they've got the wrong skin colour. They're black instead of white. And therefore, they're the right kind of child to kill. I think the point is there's never a right child. Every abortion kills a wrong child. And that's fundamentally the issue with abortion, is that it kills a human child. This happens all the time, these kind of mistakes where the wrong child gets killed. The Independent, another UK paper, had a headline, "Tragedy is healthy baby terminated by hospital in mix-up with sick twin." The tragedy is not that the wrong, quote-unquote, baby was killed. The tragedy is that both babies end up being killed in this scenario. That we think it's okay to just kill a baby because they've got some kind of disability, even if it's life-limiting. And that's the other thing that you saw in that BBC clip. The couple was told, well, your baby's going to suffer. they've got a condition incompatible with life, this is going to be consigning them to days or weeks of suffering if you choose to give birth to this child. Now, it's really important to note that choosing to give birth to a very, very sick child, it's not like that child is just left. They go to the NICU and they receive palliative care. And Dr. Melissa Lai, who's a neonatologist, who's the head of Pro-Life Health Professionals Australia, she's a senior neonatologist, and she speaks about, you can check the interview out on my YouTube channel, she speaks about the fact that these little babies who are very sick can be made completely comfortable. What Melissa Lai says and what neonatologists do as their job is to make sure that these newborn babies who are very sick receive the best possible care and that they are made comfortable. And even things like she's told me about, you can put morphine on the lips of these babies to make sure that they're just not feeling any pain, and they can be held, they could be comforted, they could be sung to. And it is far more humane to do it that way. It's far more compassionate to do it that way than to suddenly take this baby from the place where they're safest and they're comfortable and rip their body apart with a dilation and evacuation abortion, using metal forceps to literally rip their arms and legs off, or to inject them brutally with potassium chloride to induce a cardiac arrest, something we don't even do to animals. These abortion methods, they're not pain-free for the baby, and I don't think these parents are told this. And so these parents are told, oh, you can do this and it will alleviate the child's suffering. It doesn't alleviate their suffering. It brutally kills them. And the far more humane and compassionate thing is to birth that baby, and if they do survive the birth process, then to give them care, to give them compassionate care, and if they're going to die, then it's a palliative care that can make them comfortable. Just like that story in The Independent I told you about in Melbourne in 2011, so closer to home, the wrong twin was aborted. The couple went in and found out that one of the twins had a congenital heart defect. They were advised by the Royal Women's Hospital in Melbourne to kill the unhealthy or the sick twin, and they did this at 32 weeks, except the injection of potassium chloride was put into the healthy twin by mistake, and so then the mother was given an emergency C-section to deliver the unhealthy twin. Both were dead by the end of this, and both were brutally killed. It's just shocking to me that we call this healthcare. And let's just take a look. Let's take a look at what it is that these babies are going through.
My name is Joanna Howe and I'm a professor of law. Today I'm going to describe an abortion by induction. The abortion procedure is performed in a hospital and the abortionist uses an ultrasound to see the baby. The ultrasound is used to obtain a 4-chamber view of the baby's heart, and the baby's heart rate is recorded. Given the chance of a live birth following an abortion increases with advancing gestation, abortions at this stage involve feticide. Feticide comes from the Latin stem word side, which means to kill, and fetus, which means child. The purpose of feticide is therefore to kill the child. A long needle is inserted through the mother's abdomen into the uterus. Guided by the ultrasound, the abortionist injects a needle of potassium chloride into the left ventricle of the heart. Following feticide, the mother takes labour-inducing drugs. The mother then goes through labour and delivers her baby stillborn. The dead baby is immediately removed from the room and taken away.
I just think they should show that to every mother that they're advising to have a late-term abortion. So this woman at 32 weeks who had carried these twins for 32 weeks inside of her, they'd heard her, they'd responded to her, they were reacting to what she's eating, and yet she was advised to kill one of the twins. They then kill the wrong twin and they then kill both twins. I mean, it's just mind-blowing that this is occurring in our hospitals. And the tragedy, again, just to be really clear, is that the sick twin with a congenital heart defect, that wasn't the right baby to kill. They were both the wrong babies to kill. And the tragedy is that they were both killed. Andrew Bolt, a columnist for the Herald Sun, tells this story about something absolutely shocking that happened in 2011. There was the 2000 case of the abortion of Jessica, a healthy 32-week-old fetus, after her deeply distressed mother threatened suicide if she was made to give birth. The mother thought Jessica could be a dwarf, which meant bad luck. But on delivery of the girl, killed in the womb, a nurse at the Melbourne Royal Women's Hospital recorded, "The baby doesn't look small." And in fact, she wasn't a dwarf. And I just want to make a few points here. So the mother threatened suicide if she had to give birth. But at 32 weeks, The only way to get Jessica out was to give birth. There is no other way to magically disappear this baby. So did they tell her, what we're going to do is inject your baby with potassium chloride? Did they show a video of what they were going to do to Jessica and then say, you're going to have to go through labour and you're delivering a dead stillborn baby? Because she had to give birth. And if a mother threatens suicide because she wants to get this baby out and she wants the baby dead, the correct humane response is to say, we'll get the baby out, but we're not going to kill your baby first, because that's a sick, monstrous, absolutely effed up act. Like, there's just no other way of describing something like that. If at 30 seconds old after being born, the mother threatens suicide, the doctors say, that's okay, we're going to give you care, we're going to, help you out, but we're not going to kill your child. We're going to inject Jessica at 30 seconds old with potassium chloride. What's the difference just before birth when this is a fully developed baby? Okay, so we need to talk about the fact that her baby had a diagnosis of dwarfism. Now, they got that wrong, so that's also really just mind-boggling. But I also want to make it really clear that babies with dwarfism are people. People with dwarfism are people. Like, this should not be something I have to say. We should know this. I mean, don't we run a big game on being inclusive and diverse, and yet all of a sudden it's totally okay to annihilate babies in the womb because they've got dwarfism? I mean, just last year, the first interview I ever did for my YouTube channel was with this amazing woman, Prue, from Sydney. She's a hairdresser, and when she was pregnant with her second child, she got a diagnosis that her baby was going to have dwarfism. And she was totally shocked. She just bought a new hair salon. They had a big mortgage on their house, and it was not ideal time, and it probably never is, but it just was particularly not a good time for Prue to be confronted with that news. But Prue fought for her baby. So despite the social worker offering her an abortion at 35 weeks, I mean, that's just insane. Despite that, Prue fought for her baby and gave birth to little Romy, who's just the most beautiful little girl. I got to hold her when I went to visit. She's just this beautiful, vivacious girl. Just because someone might be a bit shorter and have some associated health issues does not make them a human being with human rights. I mean, that should be bleeding obvious, but it seems like the medical profession finds a diagnosis of dwarfism or Down syndrome or congenital heart defect or Edwards syndrome, and they shepherd you to killing your child. I mean, this is just eugenics. This is just plain and simple eugenics. Last year we had the news that 2 women went into a hospital in Prague and the wrong woman received the abortion. One woman was just going in for a standard routine antenatal appointment at 4 months, and the other woman was going in to kill her child via a dilation and curettage abortion. The doctors got them mixed up. Both women didn't speak English very well, and they killed the wrong baby. Again, let's be clear, they didn't kill the wrong baby because they mixed this up. They killed the wrong baby because every baby you intentionally kill is the wrong baby. In the end, both babies were killed. It's just an absolute tragedy. And look at the way that this is reported in the press. When The Independent reported on the fact that the wrong woman had her baby killed, they said that the baby was killed because there was a procedure to remove tissue from the womb. Remove tissue. No wonder nobody knows what an abortion is if the mainstream media refers to killing a child intentionally as removing pregnancy tissue. No, you're not removing tissue. You are ripping the arms and legs off a child at 4 months. That's the method. You are literally breaking their body apart and crushing their skull. That's what this story should say, but no, we've saved the gory details because the abortion establishment doesn't want us to know. And sometimes, and we have to acknowledge that this is rare, sometimes abortion is not just deadly for the child, but it's deadly for the woman. And so last year in Melbourne, Harjit Kaur, who just got a job at Nike, they'd just taken out a mortgage at a new home, she's got 2 beautiful children, and she went in for a surgical abortion to the Hampton Clinic. And there, after going in for that abortion, her heart stopped beating and she tragically dies. So that abortion didn't just kill the child, the abortion killed the mother. And what's really mind-blowing is the way the mainstream media reported on the tragedy of Harjit Kaur. Now, they didn't even mention the tragedy of the fact that her baby was killed. They entirely focused on the fact that it was she that was killed. The Guardian said that, they quoted the abortion clinic saying it's a witch hunt because there was an investigation into this woman dying from her abortion. Now, that's insane that an investigation into someone dying is called a witch hunt. That tells you something about the abortionist and the abortion industry, that they just don't want to be looked at. Secondly, when The Guardian and the ABC reported on this woman's death, they framed it as an abortion access issue. So they said, okay, so this woman's died, blah, 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 blah. They literally just skip right through to the fact that we need greater abortion access in Australia and it's a postcode lottery. I mean, it is just crazy how they have their narrative and they stick to it. Even in a situation where it's really clear that the abortion has gone tragically wrong because there's a double tragedy. News.com.au wasn't even much better. They framed this as an affordability issue. So after saying blah, 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 this woman's died, they frame it as, well, it's too expensive to have children. And so therefore, this woman needed to kill her child. I mean, this is just insane the way the media reports on these issues. You cannot get a proper analysis of what's going on in the abortion industry in this country, its effects on women and children. You cannot get that from the mainstream media, which is why I'm glad you're here on this podcast, and I hope you stick along with the journey because we're going to keep doing this. We have to keep exposing these people. And I think it's really important to point out to the folks at news.com.au that because you think you can't afford it is never a reason to kill a child. I had a baby when I was a PhD student at Oxford. I literally was on a scholarship that had no maternity leave. So I had to go back to work to write my PhD straight after the birth of this child. I didn't have an income, like a job where I was able to, earn money. There was no access to government-funded maternity leave. I was living in student accommodation in a cramped one-bedroom apartment. This is just the reality. So I'm not telling you this to some sob story as in woe is me. I'm just saying that housing affordability or you've started a new job or you've got a big mortgage or whatever it is, or you're a student, none of these are ever reasons to kill an innocent child. And I think that's where we ended. Every abortion kills the wrong child. Thank you for joining me today on the Dr. Jo Show.